This is a full book summary of CHINUA ACHEBE Things Fall Apart. Let's get this started with. Now this story goes ahead and we look at it from the eyes of an African traditional man who's very masculine. His name is CHINUA ACHEBE! Just kidding, that's the author's name. This guy's name is Okonkwo, and Okonkwo is very masculine. He made sure that his role model was the opposite of his father. And Unoka really loved music, and conversation could create a pretty good story as well too. However, he lacked in the practical aspects. He could not have a really good yield. He never grew many lands. He always was borrowing and losing money, and so was pretty much a burden towards the tribe. Since he was a burden, there was not much else we could really do about this. Unoko died penniless and, well, disinherited from the village. Okonkwo decided that he would be the exact opposite of all that, and that he would do whatever it takes to become the opposite of Unoka, to become strong, masculine, and do whatever the heck he wanted, and have very little words to express it. He also had a pretty good stammer, which was terrible in his time. He had a barn full of yams, which is pretty much what the Africans ate back then. He also had 3 wives. Yes, apparently he was allowed to have more than 1 wife. He also had several children, although we only look at 2 of the children. And his morals let him become a strong masculine person who never showed emotion, except when he was angry. And he was angry often. And because of that, that's pretty much how it all went. Later on in life, there was much other things that kind of happened towards him. The key things is that Okonkwo went ahead and had two children. One was a boy named Noya, who he feared would become his father, and so decided to go ahead and try to correct him by constantly nagging and annoying him, which, as you know, as a teenager, will not help. The other one was his daughter, Ezinma, and Ezinma was, well, very much like her father. She looked a lot like her mother, but she also had a strong will, could do manual labor pretty well as well too. And with all that, we were able to do pretty much every one of the things that we have imagined we would ever do. Okonkwo later went ahead and became very traditional. It was said that he wrestled against the greatest wrestler of all time, who was undefeated for 7 years until Okonkwo came and defeated him. He himself lived through a moral code and also let himself do several things too. One time he shot a gun in the air in salute of the death of the oldest man in the village. However, the gun suddenly exploded and a piece of shrapnel hit the old man who's died's son. And so his son joined him in heaven too. This was an unspeakable crime, but since it was, well, accidental, he would be allowed to return after 7 long grueling years. So during that time, Okonkwo went to his motherland, basically the village of his mother. And what happened to his son? He left all his children behind. His son, he didn't even regard as a son anymore. Well, because there was this new Christianity religion that came in town, and when he realized that his own son, Noya, was enthralled by the religion, he beat the life out of him, which eventually could have cost him his death. However, Noya survived and never went back home. He became a devout Christian and enrolled in the school. Okonkwo was expelled. And after he was expelled, he went ahead and lived in the motherland for pretty well as well too. And then the villagers came in there too. And then the white men came there too. And they have pretty wild and enthralling stories about them. Afterwards, of course, there was not much else that they could talk about, except talking about the impending threat that the white man held. When he returned to his village, he tried to rally his people against the white men, but they saw the good in the white men a bit too much, because while the white men built a drugstore, they built a hospital, they also built a justice system. All for the Africans to use. Okonkwo himself later went ahead and found out about all the atrocities that the white men did, and when the white men tried to end a meeting of the clan, he beheaded the white man. And then every other white man went ahead and ran away to get some reinforcements. And then when Okonkwo realized that he was the only one who actually held a sword that could at least kill several white men, he dropped it. And the sword was metaphorical, by the way. He dropped a metaphorical sword and then went off to leave from this world. He could not live in a world where tradition was not it. And so he hanged himself. And he killed himself. When the white men came, they were all but speechless, thinking out that this man was so terrible. And so could not live in this world too. The white men buried the body because Africans were, well, forbidden from touching the body. any African, although in this case Nigerians, they realized that this was a pretty good story and it could at least be at least like worth one chapter. Or not one chapter, a reasonable paragraph as they described it. And then they even decided the title of the book itself. They decided to call it The Pacification of the Primitive Tribes of the Lower Niger, looking at the idiocracy and the misunderstanding of the white men onto the African Nigerians. And that's it. That is the end of the book. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope to see you guys soon. And so until next time, peace. Bye bye.